Bell Pottinger is a primetime PR company. PR is, interestingly, PR, public relations, is a term for propaganda that was changed in the early part of the 20th century by a PR, should I say propaganda master called Bernays, who was really one of the originators of PR in the West, as he learnt it from the Germans during the Nazi regime. But anyway, that's a fun factoid. The PR company Bell Pottinger has been found to have been basically stoking racial hatred and race baiting through fake websites and Twitter accounts so that they could help out the current ruling party in the South African parliament. They were using the narrative of what they call white monopoly capital, so that essentially the whites owned too much wealth in South Africa as a way to discredit the party in power, suggesting that they were part of this white monopoly capital, or they were in collusion in benefit of this white monopoly capital. So they were found out that they were running these ad campaigns, and people have complained, obviously, especially in South Africa. I didn't realize South Africa was such a woke country.
Well, I think that was probably like due to the fears about their actual life being threatened if this continued to get stoked, you know. Well,
the interesting thing is that the sentiment was anti-white in South Africa, which is obviously a majority black country, and yet they were woke enough to say that this is a problem. So you got to give this to South Africa for being an amazingly level-headed country. So yeah, South Africa, to their credit, basically said, yeah, this is complete bullshit. Please don't stoke racial hatred in our country. And Bell Pottinger are in a lot of trouble for essentially being massive mercenary racists. Racists
wow.
of the...
Can you even call them racists?
Yeah.
Or just opportunists?
Well, I think you can call someone racist if they're willing to advance a racist narrative. Yeah, I mean, it's an academic distinction.
I think it'd be more about just doing the best for their client.
Well, it's an academic distinction. I mean, if you're acting like a racist for money, well, you're still acting like a racist, even if in your heart of hearts, shriveled as it is, you're not an actual racist. You're still acting like a racist.
You get into a conversation about whether motives or intentions are important.
So Channel 4, I believe, got together a panel of PR experts to try and...
it was one competitive PR person. So it was one of Bell Pottinger's PR competitors, and the interviewer asked of the competitor, what's happened in South Africa? Is this what we should expect from PR companies, especially the big influential ones? And the PR competitor replied, this is what you can expect from that PR company. I've never seen such thick layers of irony sitting on a stage that a PR was running down one of its competitors. I'm like, if that's not the full spirit of PR in full flow, then I don't know. I just thought it was the most amazing interview. That PR person was like, then they asked me, does things need to be more regulated? It's like, maybe we need a new regulation, it was just...
it was great
magical.
deflecting.
It was magical.
It was great deflecting because the answer was so out there that it almost defied the ability to comprehend it. They were like, no, I think we should get rid of the regulatory body and create an entirely new regulatory body. At which point...
The one that has more power.
Yeah, at which point, you can't even... that's such a big change. You can't
If you want, you can pay me and I'll set up some fake Twitter accounts. And I'll start greasing the wheels.
So they had a second guest to that panel, okay. who was also from. He wasn't from the same regulatory body, but he wasn't from a PR company, and he raised the point that you had a huge amount of money coming from certain countries, in this case, who want PR to help them mask human rights abuses. And he's pointing out that, you know, you had like 30 million pounds, I believe it was, coming out of Bahrain in the space of a couple of years for PR activity when they were trying
How much? 30 million.
30 million. When they were trying to clamp down on certain human rights. And his point was that wasn't all taken by Pottinger. So it was clearly taken by other PR companies as well. And like you were saying, the other person on the panel from the rival PR company was just saying, yeah, that's very interesting. Just was not willing to take any responsibility or any blame for it at all.
Which is good PR.
Which is good PR, yeah. So they were just saying like...
There's no way that interview could have won. if winning was the outcome of that interview, there's no way they were going to win it against... And that would have been their top level PR person.
I just like the way that the interview ended because it had this other panelist basically saying that the whole industry should have a shake-up and a wake-up call. And it was correct in the sense that, yeah, there really needs to be a bit of a shake-up and a wake-up call, but it was non-specific about what should happen. So the PR expert said, this is perfect like psychology, like pop psychology. They just said, oh, I completely agree. And just left it there. And it's just like, there was no interest in, obviously you don't want to expound on that point, but neither can you argue against it. So it was just like, it's the only time I think I've ever heard on a news show someone just go, yeah, I completely agree, and then leave it there. You know, it was just
great way to end the conversation.
Yeah, it's just like end the conversation, just de-escalate the situation, move on to the next topic. So
I just pulled up a bit of an article from Forbes, just looking at what's the economics behind the PR industry. So Varonis Sula Stevenson, a leading private investment firm, is bullish on the PR industry. They've predicted that annual US spending on combined public relations and word-of-mouth marketing services almost $11 billion per year.
Big market. That's a lot of money for lying.
Yeah.
Almost as much as the legal industry.
But I mean, it must be, because it just takes me back to that "Thank You for Smoking."
Great film.
Great film. When, there's obviously, it's almost a light touch on social, psychopathy, where you just get enjoyment out of being able to string people along. What you're lying about doesn't matter. It's just enjoying about.
Is it a light touch?
Or is it? Well, I think in that movie, he was, they tried to portray him as a likable character, but probably in real life, they'd probably try and hire actual psychopaths.
Yeah, it's day in the life. It's more accurate. Yeah. But
I imagine what the
I like the sophomore approach. My favorite film on this is Liar Liar. So I think it gets the main cadence across whilst having more tit jokes, but
that's 11 billion is a lot of money.
It is
covering up people's tomfuckery.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's a lot of money for lying.
So it just I think brought light on the
my favorite quote from that whole panel on Channel 4 has got to be from the PR woman. Obviously, she's just master, but they say, well, the whole reason you hire a PR firm is to obviously clean up a reputation that needs cleaning up. So there's something that has to be hidden. So it's by default something bad, right? The PR person says, absolutely great, says, well, it could be that you actually have done something amazing and something great and not enough people know about it. So you just need someone to spread the good word. I was just like, yes,
well,
that is exactly why
she listened in the training.
That is exactly why people hire PR firms to let everyone know how many Africans you've saved from malnutrition.
It'd be like trying to catch an eel with bare hands. Winning, getting through that interview, So I guess it just shines light on the fact that how much influence is the PR industry having globally at the moment? Are are we severely underestimating how much the information that we receive on a daily basis is purely PR?
Well, there's a lot of these
controlled by a central government.
Yeah, well, there's there's a lot of these bot channels. There's a lot of these fake Twitter accounts.
Oh yeah,
fake Facebook accounts, fake news that goes along with it. And yeah, you ask a really good question. Like, how much of that is fake news that's created by, let's say, a foreign state or individuals, and how much of that is just purely companies, like actual private enterprises that have as their business plan create lies that people pay us for? And how much of that money does Soros spend?
How often is a journalist source a paid PR person that they don't even realise is PR? You know, have they got people? Are they planting people?
Right.
You know, because a good PR company, I don't know, I'm not an expert on the PR industry.
Not a psychopath,
but I imagine that having moles that were feeding information to credible journalists to run your narrative would be, would you know, like look at House of Cards. They obviously feed out information as they want to.
Exactly. By definition, you need that. That's how you get a lot of the information out there. The interesting thing is, have a think about how many of news stories in the last year have fizzled out, which were based on initially credible sources that then suddenly disappeared or became less credible. You know, they'll say something euphemistically like, source could not be corroborated, or that the source had withdrawn their information, or something like that, something non-specific like that. But it's like, well, they were either a source or they weren't. So unless you're actually saying that these people were somehow forcibly silenced, where did they go? Why did they stop being a source? And a lot of these news stories that have been going around just disappear based on the sources. So it's really interesting how much of that could just be fake.
And it makes me wonder, like how vulnerable journalists are to these PR people, because with the 24-hour news cycle, journalism's changing. The old school investigative journalism, we don't see that as much as what we'd like to. So these people they're just waiting for those announcements from PR, from say government PRs, like releasing information, and they're just waiting for that. So they're going to be vulnerable to a source ringing up, and this might be just some dude at a desk with a list of fake news articles he needs to get out, and so he just I'm just I can't say my name, but I'm at a public telephone, and did you know that Trump just had a meeting with the Kremlin? And
sold all the uranium.
They're eating caviar together, and
it can also just be stuff like they'll set up fake accounts, like fake Facebook account. And they'll set up an account saying, I'm a journalist with
Mother Against Death Sports.
Yeah, for example, I'm a journalist with X organization, or I'm an analyst for Y company, and they'll put out a message to a journalist and say, we've just come up with this, or we're about to release this story, or we're about to release this analysis, or whatever else it might be. And the journalist goes ahead and prints it as a story. And then the source disappears. And, the journalist has put out what they believe is a credible source on facts. And instead it could be a complete fabrication, like you said, from somebody's desk.
It's mind-boggling to think of how much power and influence these private PR firms have. How was that PR spin when the Mecca camping area of 120,000 tents was empty, while Syrians got into leaky boats and fled across the Mediterranean? And what was the PR spin out of that? Oh, we would take these people in, but they're just not the same culture as us, and we wouldn't want them to feel. We wouldn't want them to feel excluded. And I was going, that was the line that came up out of that. It's oh man. And then in Russia as well, the amount of oligarchs in Russia that spend on PR to allow them to trade with the rest of the world.
Yeah, poor Russians. Yeah, it's interesting because with a lot of this kind of stuff, we talked about Bell Pottinger in particular.
Who now had their license revoked.
Well, they've had their PR professional membership revoked, which
What, their license to lie?
well, I'm not even. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously they're still a firm, so they've not been disbanded as a firm. Arguably, they have lost prestige.
Well, it's probably a game within the PR industry that they're all waiting to see what Pottinger's move is to see how they spin their way out of this.
Well, my point is, what do they have to spin? I mean, a lot of customers have pulled out. Interestingly, so this is going to have a big financial impact on them. People are leaving their pay, but that is more based on perception. So you don't want to be associated with a company that's been found out to be
A PR company.
But in the long run, what does that mean? Are they just going to have to take a cut in headcount and a cut in business and per hour fees, and they'll pick up other clients that are less worried about their representation and are just keen to get a PR company working for them on the cheap? So is this even going to crater them, or are they actually going to find that they'll have to take a reputation hit, but ultimately they'll still be in the market, they'll still be trading? I don't know. I don't know where this is going to land them in a few months and a few years' time, but it could just be more of a revenue crater that they then have to try and build themselves back out of, which being a PR company, they probably can. And then they could be fine again. So I'm not saying it's ineffectual. I'm saying that, it's not necessarily the worst thing that could have happened for them. And the systemic problem of essentially companies that are designed to allow you to buy lies is still there. So I'm not sure it's really improved much in the grand scheme of things.
I'm just waiting for this story just to get swept under the rug, which it almost already is. So
it really is.
Fascinating.
It really is going to get swept under the rug a little bit because again, it was racism towards whites, which is just not fashionable.
Yeah.
So no one cares.
Well, it's not even possible because
it's possible.
Racism is privilege plus power. So
it's possible in South Africa, I guess. Although that's the narrative they were pushing, that the whites held all the money and so still held all the power. So again, it was whites being racist against themselves. I'm not sure. So yeah, it was a white Anglo-Saxon company being racist against whites.
Yeah, the whole thing's just amazing. I just
through the looking glass.
Sometimes I just look up to the heavens and thank the Lord for
these memes.
For these memes. Yeah.